There's a specific kind of silence that happens right before you say something you don't mean. You're in a conversation, maybe with your boss, maybe with your landlord, maybe with your partner, and there's a version of what you actually think forming in your head. It's clear, it's honest, it's probably right. And then, like a hand closing around your throat, a different calculation kicks in. Can I afford for this to go wrong? And the honest answer is no. So you say the other thing, the safe thing, the nodding thing. I used to think that was a personality flaw. I now know it's a math problem. My name's Jordan, and today I want to talk to you about a number. Not a retirement number, not a quit your job and move to Bali number. A floor number. $3,000 a month. And I want to make a specific, provable argument that the distance between zero passive income and $3,000 a month is not a financial gap. It's a psychological one. And crossing it changes how your brain works at the most fundamental level. Let's start with something most finance content skips entirely: what survival actually costs. The United Way tracks what they call a household survival budget, not comfort, not savings, just the bare minimum cost of existing as a single adult in America. Housing, food, transportation, health insurance, a phone, taxes. Across the majority of the country, most of the Midwest, the South, the Mountain West, that number lands between $2,300 and $2,800 a month. $3,000 a month in passive income clears that threshold in most of America. Now pay attention, because this is the part most people miss. I'm not saying $3,000 is enough to live well. I'm saying it's enough to make your job optional. And optional is one of the most powerful words in the English language. When your job is necessary for survival, you don't have a career, you have a hostage situation. When it becomes optional, everything changes. How you negotiate, what projects you take on, whether you stay, whether you speak, the decisions you make in a conference room at 2 p.m. on a Tuesday. The job doesn't change, you change. I want you to meet two people. Same city, same industry, same salary. $78,000 a year. One is named Diana, one is named Priya. Diana is smart, hardworking, genuinely good at her job. She's got about $22,000 in savings, no debt except her car, and she checks her account balance a little too often. Not because she's irresponsible. Diana is careful, actually, because the math is tight. One missed paycheck, one bad month, and things start to crack. Priya looks almost identical from the outside. Same title, same building, even the same lunch order on Thursdays. But Priya spent the last 7 years doing something deliberate. She built a stream of passive income, a dividend portfolio, one rental condo she bought with her sister, and a small B2B newsletter she started almost as an experiment. Together, $3,200 a month. Her fixed costs, $2,700. Same job, different life. But here's what I really want you to understand. It's not about the $500 surplus. It's about what happens to Priya's brain because of that $500 surplus. In 2013, researchers at Princeton and Harvard published a study in Science, one of the most cited in behavioral economics since. They found that financial scarcity actively reduces cognitive function, not as a metaphor, as a measurable result. People under financial stress perform significantly worse on cognitive tasks, the equivalent, they estimated, of a 13-point reduction in functional IQ. They verified this with sugarcane farmers in Tamil Nadu. Same individuals tested before harvest when money was scarce and after when they'd just been paid. Dramatically different scores. The money didn't make them smarter. The absence of financial threat gave them back the cognitive capacity that stress had been consuming. And then there's the hormonal layer. Chronic financial stress raises cortisol, your primary stress hormone, and sustained elevated cortisol makes you more risk-averse. So the people who most need to take risks to improve their situation are, biologically, the least able to tolerate that risk.
Careers. Diana hasn't asked for a raise in 19 months. She deserves one. She knows she deserves one. But the risk calculation says Asking could create friction, friction could create exposure, exposure could create a bad outcome, and I have 14 days until rent. So the conversation doesn't happen. Priya asked last quarter. When her manager said the budget wasn't there, she said, "Understood, let's revisit in 90 days with performance benchmarks." She got 9%. That's not confidence, that's the absence of desperation. Health. Diana's job is, in the most honest assessment, damaging her. Sleep disruption, persistent low-grade anxiety. She knows this, but leaving feels like falling, so she stays. Research from USC found that years of life lost to chronic financial insecurity are comparable to years lost from major disease risk factors. This is not a soft statement. Financial stress is quietly shortening lives. Priya quit a job 2 years ago that was doing the same thing to her. She didn't have another one lined up. She took 3 months off, then came back to the market on her own terms, because "I quit" was a real sentence, not a fantasy. Emergencies. Last spring, Diana's HVAC unit failed, $1,800. That single event created a cascade, credit card debt at 23% interest, a mental running tab, a background hum of stress that didn't clear for 4 months. One normal household failure became a 4-month financial event. When Priya's car needed $1,100 in repairs, she paid it and went back to her book. Not because she's wealthy, because $1,100 is not structurally threatening when $3,200 arrives regardless. An expense is not a crisis. That distinction sounds simple. It is everything. Investing. In March 2020, when markets dropped 34% in 5 weeks, Diana pulled $7,000 from her brokerage account to cover the gap from reduced work hours. That $7,000 left alone would be worth nearly $21,000 today. The loss isn't $7,000, it's the compounding of $7,000 over 6 years. Priya didn't sell in March 2020. Priya bought $5,000 at the bottom. Not because she's a genius, because the floor was still there, and a covered floor produces entirely different investing behavior. Dalbar's 30-year analysis of investor returns found that real investors underperform index funds by 1.5% to 2% annually, almost entirely due to panic behavior. That gap, compounded over a career, is the difference between retiring and not. Now, how does this actually get built? Because I'm not going to spend 10 minutes convincing you this matters and then wave you toward a motivational poster. The full dividend route requires capital most people don't have. To generate $3,000 a month from SCHD at a 3.4% yield, you need roughly $1.05 million. That's a real number. Most Americans have $8,000 in savings. So let's talk about how Priya actually did it. Not one strategy, 4 working simultaneously. A Dividend ETF portfolio, $275,000 accumulated over 7 years at $880 a month into SCHD, HDV, and a small REIT allocation. Yield around 4.1%. That's $940 a month. 1 rental condo co-purchased with her sister. Total cash out of Priya's pocket, $52,000. Net monthly cash flow after everything, $680. A B2B newsletter, originally a side project she started almost on a dare. She covers her industry, writes 2 issues a week, has 4,100 subscribers and 22 sponsors. Revenue, $1,050 a month, almost entirely automated. Total capital deployed around $327,000 over 7 years. Total passive income at year 5, $2,670. At year 7, $3,200. Not perfect, not a windfall, just consistent, deliberate accumulation across multiple channels. The thing Priya didn't fully expect, the growth. SCHD has grown its dividend at roughly 11% annually over the last decade. Her newsletter revenue compounds as her back catalog grows. The rental's mortgage gets paid by the tenant every month. At the current trajectory, in 5 years, Priya's passive income will exceed her salary, without adding a single additional dollar. Charlie Munger said, "The first rule of compounding is never interrupted unnecessarily." The floor is what makes uninterrupted compounding possible. Here's the thing I most want you to take from this. The research from basic income experiments